Conference play is heating up in Mountain West men's basketball, and the competition is fierce once again with 5 teams in the top 70 of the net rankings, one of just 6 conferences in America that can stake that claim. Hi everybody, I'm Jesse Kurtz here in the Mountain West Network studio to shed a national light on Mountain West hoops. We welcome in a good friend of ours from CBS Sports national college basketball expert, Jon Rothstein. Jon, appreciate your time and appreciate all your coverage of the Mountain West.
Jesse, great to be with you. Happy New Year.
Yeah, you as well, my friend. Let's start with Utah State, who at this point is 15-1 on the season, ranked in the national polls once again. And this is a program that's being led by its 4th head coach in the last 5 years, but success continues at a very high level. Give me your best explanation on how this keeps happening year after year. Changing coach, major roster turnover, yet Utah State leading the way in a title chase.
Well, there's an infrastructure in place at Utah State to have success. That's been established all the way going back to Stu Morrill. And there's also great fan support at Utah State that gives you an opportunity to have a great home court advantage. And another thing is you need really, really good players, because I remember doing an interview once with Gio Auriemma at UConn. He told me there isn't a good coach in sports that exists without really good players. But I think when you look at Jared Calhoun right now and what he's been able to do in his first year, one of the big things that was really critical to Utah State having a chance to do what it's doing right now is retention. And retention from a team last year in Danny Sprinkle that, remember, won a game in the NCAA tournament and beat TCU. Getting back Mason Falls-Lev and Ian Martinez was so key for this team, because not only are you returning personnel that went to the NCAA tournament and won a game, you are returning perimeter personnel. In college basketball, nothing is more critical.
Yeah, when I look at Utah State, I think it's incredible that they have finished first or second in the Mountain West in 5 of the last 6 seasons. That is incredible success sustained in Logan. The Aggies do have a big one coming up on Saturday, hosting preseason Mountain West favorite Boise State on CBS Sports Network. The Broncos are benefiting from the addition of Alvaro Cardenas, who ranks 2nd in the Mountain West and 8th in the nation in assists per game. What intrigues you the most about this matchup between the Aggies and the Broncos?
Well, the stakes in the matchup, especially from Boise State's perspective, because I think if you look at Boise State right now and you really start to evaluate the resume for the Broncos, you would say this is the team that has the requisites, along with New Mexico, to join Utah State and San Diego State as potential teams for the 2025 NCAA tournament. And now you start to take a look at the resume for Boise State. A win against St. Mary's, a win at home against Clemson. If you're good enough to win those games, you are good enough to continue to stack quad 1 opportunities. Another one is on the horizon against Utah State.
You mentioned New Mexico just moments ago. They certainly flexed their muscles with that big buzzer-beating win over Nevada that got everybody across the nation talking. The Lobos are 5-0 in Mountain West play for the first time, and it's their best conference start since 1977-78. They have 5 quad 1 and 2 wins. That's the 10th most in the country. What has impressed you the most to date with the defending Mountain West tournament champions?
It's easy to say Donovan Dent elevating his game to the level where he's a bona fide Mountain West, player of the year candidate. But I look a little bit deeper, because I had New Mexico in Memphis last year during the NCAA tournament when the Lobos lost to Clemson. And if you evaluate the roster of that team and the strengths from that team, Jesse, that won the Mountain West tournament and got the automatic qualifier, Jalen House, Jamal Mashburn Jr., and J.P. Toppin all had a major piece of the pie. The internal jumps for Mustafa Amzil and also True Washington have been paramount for this team. Now they add, obviously, to the 1-2 punch of Nelly Jr. Joseph and Donovan Dent, and Richard Pitino has 4 bona fide players. We've seen so much talk in college basketball about the ability to move from school to school via the transfer portal on a year-to-year basis. And I think because that gets so much attention in the spring with social media posts, with videos, with edits, we sometimes lose sight of the players who are retained and developed within a program. True Washington and Amzil are significantly better than they were a year ago. But remember, they were also in New Mexico's program a year ago. Everybody likes to talk about what they're going to do in the portal after the season. More and more programs, I believe, will look at what they have in terms of their own inventory internally and try to retain that before adding something else. Washington and Amesville are two prime examples of that.
Yeah, that's a great point, and the excitement gets elevated even more this weekend. The Lobos have a big one. They face San Diego State. This game will be televised nationally on CBS, so a big platform for the Lobos and the Aztecs, who have split the last 8 meetings at the pit. And, of course, this will be the ultimate clash of styles. The Mountain West top scoring team in New Mexico against the best scoring defense in San Diego State. How do you size this matchup up?
Well, San Diego State's success to me, I don't want to say it's a surprise because you obviously have to respect that program and what it's been, over the last decade and a half plus under Steve Fisher and now Brian Dutcher. But, when I think we were coming into this season, you looked at the keys for San Diego State to have success, and you would probably say Reese Waters has to be an all Mountain West Conference player. He hasn't been able to play this year because of an injury. Brian Dutcher has molded a team around Nick Boyd, who played in the Final Four a couple years ago at Florida Atlantic, and also around Miles Bird, who again has already this season scored more points than he did a year ago. The upside for me for San Diego State long term is in the continued growth of their young big guys. Pharaoh Compton, Magoon Guap, those guys have to continue to get better. But I think that I really want to see is the matchup between Boyd and Dent. Dent's appointment television. We saw glimpses of that last year. If you remember early in last season, Jalen House was out of the lineup and Donovan Dent was producing at a very, very high level. He's now at the point where if you don't watch New Mexico play, you're missing out on 2 hours of fun.
San Diego State's defense was elite on Wednesday night. They're coming off a win over Air Force where they allowed just 38 points, 14 in the second half. That was something special to be sure. All right, we're about a quarter of the way through the conference season at this point. Plenty of basketball to be played within the Mountain West. But what's a storyline, a team, or a player that we have not talked about to date that we should be paying attention to as we build up to March?
I'm going to give you two. The schools in the state of Nevada, UNLV and Nevada, are significantly better than their record indicates. UNLV has been a chalk-type team so far this season. They've won the games they're supposed to win. They lost, obviously, some games against higher-level competition. Almost had a big win on the road against Dayton. And Nevada has just had a Murphy's Law type of season, but this team is still capable. Steve Alford has always been a coach who's had his team playing at their best later in the season. I think now, if you're looking at tiers in the Mountain West, we've talked about the 4 teams that are going to be in the mix for the NCAA tournament. Utah State and San Diego State will be in my bracket projection of 68 teams on Friday. New Mexico, Boise State trying to add some more meat on the bone for that resume. But if the Mountain West Conference tournament was next week, the 2 bid stealers that I would put on America's radar are UNLV and Nevada. Those 2 programs better than they're playing right now.
John can't wait for March. There's no question about that. The Mountain West Tournament will be elite once again. I really appreciate your time, your expertise, and coverage of the Mountain West. We look forward to chatting with you a little bit later in the season once again. But thank you so much for your time here today.
Thanks, Jesse. We sleep in May.
You bet. That's Jon Rothstein of CBS Sports, who, by the way, if you want to follow his tremendous coverage of college basketball on social media platforms, you can do so on X at Jon Rothstein or on Instagram at Jon.Rothstein. By the way, make sure you're planning to join us in Las Vegas for this year's Conference Championship Tournament, and we want you to be our guest as a VIP for free. Just scan the QR code that's on your screen for a chance to win free VIP tickets that includes hospitality at the Credit Union 1 Mountain West Basketball Championship. From the Mountain West Network studio, I'm Jesse Kurtz.